Gentlemen, welcome back to the Festus Fantasy Football Forum on the Fantasy Jacks podcast. Guys, this is already week 7. The season has flown by. It's been a great one, I think. A lot of ups and downs for teams. A lot of teams making moves, trying to reroute their seasons. Other teams gearing up for deep playoff pushes. This previous week was a real testament to each lineup. I think besides maybe one or two that kind of had some off weeks, we learned a lot about who teams really were this week. Going into week 7 now, which is the halfway point of the season, not including the playoffs, we have mid-season awards coming out next week, but I'll give the nominees for this video, and then we have the obvious reviews, previews, and power rankings. Power rankings, big shakeup this week actually. Big shakeup through a lot of the top and bottom. In the middle, still kind of similar, but I think you guys are going to really want to watch those. So let's get right into the reviews to start the show as we always do. Last week, guys, I'm not going to lie. Oh, I did really bad. I went 1-5 on the week, taking my season total to 15-21. This is a worse start than I had last year. Guys, I really don't know why I'm doing so bad. Maybe I'm trying to pick too many upsets. Maybe I'm not evaluating teams the way I should. Kind of touched on that in the chat. But for whatever reason, I cannot pick games to save my life. Past 2 weeks, I think I'm like 3-9. So we're going to change that. But let's just, to go over the games from this past week. Let's start off. Thank you to Mar losing to Breece's backpack in 93.72 to 134.7. Listen, I thought Breece's backpack was going to get a You Fucked Up award this week. And I thought Dom was going to get a play of the week. Because as you can see here, Devin Singletary not playing. I don't know what the reason for not, getting that all figured out was. I think he had some app issues. But this could have costed him. Now, Breece Hall and Garrett Wilson came through for him on Monday night in a huge way. We weren't really expecting Tyler Conklin to outscore both of them. Sometimes you never know. Look, Tyler Algier was a great play this week. I would give him a play of the week for that, but he literally wins regardless. I mean, he literally won 134 points with a 0 in your running back 2 spot is pretty impressive. As for thank you to Mar, listen, a tough loss, but Joe Burrow looks great, Derrick Henry looks great, Evan Ingram looks fantastic. A little bit of an off game for Wan'Dale Robinson, but there are pieces to this team. I'm excited to see where it kind of goes. As you can see, maybe you can't see it, but Dom literally picked up every running back off the waivers when he found out Devin Singletary was not moved out of Jay Gill's lineup. I love that. That was fantastic. I like thank you to Mar's outlook a little more than I did, that's for sure. Let's go over to Can't Chubb Check, moving to 5-1 over the Dogs, 138.62 to 128.5. This one did get a little sweaty from Josh Allen on Monday night, having 20 at half and then not doing anything in the second half. A complete letdown for the Dogs. Sucks. But here's the real problem. Nailed the bust pick in Brian Thomas. He dropped, I think it was a 20-yard or 10-yard touchdown early in the game. Again, it would not have mattered in the long term, because Ty still loses. But Amari Cooper's on his way to Buffalo as we speak. As you guys are watching this, he's already in there learning the playbook. Now he's got a Josh Allen and Amari Cooper stack. I am very excited to see how that ends up. And as for Mez, my God, Joe Mixon, Kenneth Walker, and David Montgomery, that's the best running back room in the whole league, and it's by a wide margin, on top of having Lamar and Amon-Ra St. Brown. Now, your wide receiver 2 does have some question marks, even with Devontae Adams coming back. We don't know how his role will be with Garrett Wilson. Listen, flex 2 may be a problem, wide receiver 2 may be a problem. Nonetheless, the running backs are fantastic. Lamar is great. I do like Jake Ferguson, even though it was a tough week, and Amon-Ra St. Brown is Amon-Ra. Let's go to the upset of the century. We are shit. Taking down off to Grandma. Listen, Tony beat off to Grandma. How about that? The worst team in the league just beat the best team in the league. Any given Sunday, guys. Any given Sunday. This was in contention for the lowest score ever until Alan Lazard went fucking absurd on Monday night. with that Hail Mary touchdown. This was for sure in contention for the lowest score of all time. I was kind of hoping it would happen. When I look at this team, you did it without Marvin Harrison. You did it without Dak Prescott. Pretty impressive. I still like, the moves that you're making in terms of who you're starting. I like having Allen Lazard as a weekly starter there. You're going to probably have to move him up now because Harrison's most likely out. Just keep hitting the waiver wire, and then Bijan Robinson comes back next week. So that's always a good sign. As for off the grandma, what happened? I mean, let's be honest. Malik Neighbors, Kyron Williams, and Ramondre Stevenson were all out this week. It's tough for any team to win like that. However, when you pick up Jeremy McNichols as your first option, that was an interesting play there. Dallas Goedert unfortunately got injured. But then you played Jerry Jeudy as your last flex over JSN and Gabe Davis, who, of course, would not have done much, but that's just a mismanagement play, however you want to slice it. So, interesting plays there. I thought Antonio Gibson would be a great play. AJ Brown, welcome back. Maybe this team isn't as deep as we originally thought, and maybe just an off week for Off the Grandma. Now on a 2-game losing streak. 4-0 now to 0-2 in the last 2 weeks, and going down by the worst team in the league previously. So, great win by Tony. And let's move on to killer offseason, losing to Team Didi, 99.96 to 67.26. Another game that was in contention for the lowest score ever, especially because James Cook didn't even play on Monday night. Listen, Judson had 3 guys score under 2 points, 2 of which scored under 1, and 1 had scored negative. What is going on with killer offseason? A 4-game losing streak, not cracking 70 points once besides 1 week, which was last week, but for sure not getting over 90 points the last 4 weeks. That's very concerning. However, he did just make the big blockbuster move, getting rid of CD and ETN. Listen, I kind of said it in the chat. I said it last week. He has to make a move. CD was probably the only player anyone would want at this point. I think he got the most he could have out of that in terms of now he has 3 starters to fill in the spot, especially because Travis Etienne is not going to be playing next week. So in terms of a win now mode, I think Judson did the best he could. I get it. People are angry about it. I don't know why. And CD Lamb hasn't really even been performing like a star recently, if we're really being honest with ourselves, especially Etienne. So just wanted to throw that out there. Outlook-wise, Judson, I think, is on the up. Team DD somehow won this week with fucking nobodies. I mean, great play on Bucky Irving, and just got lucky, really. If you don't win against a team that scores 67 points, then you're fucking awful. So, Team DD moves to 2-4. A lot of 2-4 and 4-2s this week. Alright, let's move on to the first primetime game. I projected this game to be really high scoring, and it just did not end up like that. Listen, the Guardians of Your Mom's House take down the 08 Lions 140 to 108.72. I said earlier this week, last week, that 110 to 115 would not be enough to beat the 08 Lions this week, and turns out I was wrong. You had strong performances from DeAndre Swift again. Sunday morning, Jordan Love played great. And whenever you see Jordan Love score 25, almost 26 points, you would imagine Jaden Reed was the biggest part of that. Well, he nailed his projection, technically, but nothing after, which is really unfortunate, especially whenever you see DK not perform. You don't see Saquon perform. You don't see Jahmyr Gibbs perform. I think there's some questions that definitely were raised this game for the 08 Lions in terms of Gibbs' overall ceiling, in terms of Laporte. I mean, Laporte had 1 catch for 12 points. I mean, DeAndre Swift, I'd argue, is the best player on this team right now. I'm not at all concerned for the 08 Lions at all, because when you really think about it, this is the floor for this team. Every single week, the 08 Lions, barring injury or bye weeks, is going to score 100 points. How many times is Saquon Barkley going to score under 8? Or DK under 8? You know what I'm saying? I get it, Kirk had a bad game. You should have started Downs. It wouldn't have mattered anyways. But listen, whenever Jordan Love scores 25, more than likely Jaden Reed is going to score over 20 as well. I don't know the numbers on that, but I guarantee you it is a very substantial amount. So it's just an unfortunate game script circumstance that Jordan Love threw 4 touchdowns and only 1 was to Jaden Reed, and I think he only had like a few catches. I think 3 or 4, whatever. It's just unlucky. This is the floor for the 08 Lions. As for the Guardians, 140 today. great game, especially with two players really underperforming in Ayuk and Connor. Thank fucking God for Cole Kmet and Chris Godwin. Jaden Daniels, great. Mark Andrews on the bench, I fucking hate you. But good, I don't care. Guardians, highest scoring team in the league. You love to see it. And CeeDee Lamb is on the way. He's already in the plane. Just got off the phone with him. He is happy to come back to the Guardians, where it all started last season. And finally, for the last primetime game, this game was close. I mean, if you want to think about it, less than 10 points. So, bear down, beating JaxyPad 105.04 to 95.1. The game came down to the very last game on Monday night with Dalton Kincaid. Sunday Night Football. Chris had every single opportunity to come back. Oh my God, Darius Slayton with, 10, 11 targets? And he only finished with 11 points. And on top of that, bear down, had Zach Moss score 0.5. Chris Olave negative 0.5. Brock was just trying to fucking toss Chris the win, and he couldn't do it. And Chris was like, here, no, you take the fucking win. I don't fucking want it. And then you take the fucking win. Who wanted to win this game? No one did. Luckily for Brock, Caleb Williams played out of his mind, on top of Drake London, Trey McBride, Tank Dell, and Devontae Smith, all scoring above 15 points. But when you look at Moss, Roshan, and Olave, holy hell, that sucks. With that being said, Chris, I am giving you a You Fucked Up award this week for picking up Trey Sermon in waivers and starting him. I understand what you thought you had to do in playing him because he was going to be the starter. However, had you not picked him up and you picked up Goodson, you picked up Sean Tucker that we saw, they were high projections, around 7 and 9 projected last week. I went back and checked. Over Trey Sermon. On top of that, you probably give Brock Trey Sermon, who starts him over Roshan Johnson, who then loses 3 more points, and then you win even easier. So I know it's a little ticky-tacky, but I'm going to give you the You Fucked Up award for that, because as someone who always claims that projections don't mean anything, I think you clearly went for a guy that had a high projection. Sorry for being rude a little bit, but I would do this for anyone. As for the rest of these two teams' outlooks, I mean, look, Bear Down won this week, and whether he deserved to or not, it's a W. That's huge in this league. You have to take wins anytime you can get them, because there's going to be weeks where you score 140 and lose, right? So take advantage of all opportunities. Brock moves the all-time record against Chris to 5-2. That was the matchup reviews. I went, like I said, 1-5 on the picks. I went 0-1 on my boom pick because Jaden Reed did not get it. I should have picked Jordan Love. However, I did go 1-0 with my bust pick, which was Brian Thomas. Nevertheless, that is it for that. Let's get on to the matchup previews for Week 7. After that, we're going to go into power rankings, and we'll finish off this video with the nominees for the mid-season awards. And let's get into the matchup previews for Week 7. Kind of an interesting slate this week. Nothing too crazy in terms of storylines. We do have a primetime game. You're going to be hearing from one of the managers. Also, at the end of this segment, we're going to be returning with the Boomer Bust picks. And last week, like I said in the reviews, I went 1-5. That sucks in terms of picking. My record all time, for the year, is really low, so we gotta go 6-0. I think with my picks, we're gonna do that, and let's get right into that. So the first one I want to highlight is Breece's Backpack taking on the 08 Lions. Both teams, I would imagine, are gonna be playoff bound. However, the outlooks are very different, I think. I think the 08 Lions have one of the best rosters in the whole entire league, top to bottom. And then you look at Breece's Backpack, who is just a team full of stacks. Say what you want about stacks, I'm not a fan, so it's kind of a turn-off, fantasy football speaking. So Daniel Jones, Devin Singletary, there's a stack. Breece Hall, Garrett Wilson, there's a stack, 2 of them. Kareem Hunt and Xavier Worthy, there's a stack, 3 of them. Zay Flowers and Justice Hill, there's 4 of them. Aaron Jones and AJ Hawkinson, there's 5 of them. 5 of them. I mean, it's just, why do you have so many stacks? You have 10 players on the same teams, basically. I'm not a fan of that. I hate it. I understand you can probably drop Daniel Jones at any time, but you're rocking with him. So I just don't like that. So the outlook for the Breezes back squad isn't really that great. However, when you look at the matchups this week, it's also not supported. And that's the problem with stacks, is that if you have a player who has a bad matchup, it's typically going to be a bad matchup for everybody, right? Pittsburgh is a good defense. They're going to stop Breece Hall and they're going to stop Garrett Wilson. They're just a good defense. You go to a team, however, like Daniel Jones and Devin Singletary, Philadelphia's defense isn't that good, so maybe it benefits. I would rather, though, not take that shot, and I would like to spread that out. That's the only reason I don't like stacks, but to each their own. The 08 Lions, I'd imagine it's going to be a big bounce-back game. They have underperformed vastly the past 2 weeks, even at full strength. No DeAndre Swift this week, so that is a concern for the 08 Lions. I would argue Swift has been his best player over the last 4 weeks. Who would have ever thought that, right? And as for Breece's backpack, no Devin Singletary. Aaron Jones is a 50-50, and I will say Singletary is probably 50-50 as well. So we'll see how his flexes shape up to be come Sunday. Who do I have winning this game? Look, 51 to 49% projection. It's going to be a close one. I'm going to have the 08 Lions winning this game. Look, they have scored very bad the past 2 weeks, and for their potential, I think they finally get back on the horse and get going with Saquon Barkley. He just has not been able to perform for this team yet. So for this first game, I have the 08 Lions winning. The next one I have is Team DD taking on Thank You Tomorrow. Initially, it's a big projection disparity, but when you look at it, James Cook probably isn't going to be playing again. However, Team DD does have Bucky Irving. There's a question mark with Jordan Mason playing for Thank You Tomorrow. Thank You Tomorrow's team is looking better after the Joe Burrow trade and after Evan Ingram has come back. The Jordan Mason time is quickly dwindling. And then eventually you're not going to have a running back there. So the lack of a trade by this team is concerning. I don't know why you're holding on to Derrick Henry when you can clearly get 2-3 players for him. At this stage, he's the running back 2 or one on the year. Go sell him and build this team out more well-rounded. Just my opinion. When you look at Team DD, decimated with injuries, probably not going to have James Cook again, so that's your top 3 players out on injury. However, the depth is kind of showing up. Courtland Sutton has been pretty good. Chuba Hubbard has been fantastic. You guys all criticize that trade, and look how good it's been for Team DD in terms of just production. He's been, I think, his best player since the trade, Chuba Hubbard has. I mean, minus Nico, who got hurt. However, the facts are still the facts. So I have Team DD winning this game. I just truly believe that his team, even without James Cook, having Bucky Irving to replace, is just going to beat Thank You Tomorrow. Next up, I want to go to Jaxie Pad taking on Can't Chubb Check. Chris doesn't have a running back 2, and that's concerning because we've gone this long into the season and you're not starting a running back 2. Now, however, you did make the trade for Nick Chubb. Maybe he plays this week. If that is the case, would you start him over Sean Tucker currently in the running back 2 position? Personally, I would, because not only is Sean Tucker a literal backup who had just for some reason the greatest game he's ever had in his life, B, not really that good of a player, 3, Baltimore has a great run defense. You don't even want to play a running back against them. And 4, Nick Chubb potentially going to be the full starter. Crazy to say that, but I don't think it's that out of the way to say he's going to get 10 to 15 carries against Cincinnati's piss poor run defense. I digress. That's all hypothetical. When you look at Can't Chubb Check coming into this game, pretty much fully healthy, fully ready to go, nobody on bye, and you just had Devontae Adams traded from the Raiders, so he looks to be playing this Sunday. Now you have your full lineup, and I'm personally, I'm excited to see what this team does. No Jake Ferguson, but Cade Otton's been pretty good tight end. Romeo Doubs, as of now, is in your flex too. Interesting start over Michael Wilson, in my opinion. No matter who you put there, you're going to beat Jaxie Pad this week. Let's just be honest. Chris's team is just not built for the bright lights right now, right? Waiting on CMC, waiting on Tyreek Hill, I guess Tua, to be fair. He just doesn't have any time to wait, and he is slowly it's like death by a million paper cuts. Except the paper cuts are like knives, so it's a big cut. So death by a lot of big cuts is Chris right now. That's every single week for this guy. I got Nez winning this one. This is a big, big disparity. The Guardians of Your Mom's House, fresh off of the CeeDee Lamb trade, taking on We Are Shit. Even without CeeDee Lamb in the lineup, he still projected 127 points, opposed to We Are Shit. He has no quarterback at the time I'm recording this in his lineup, but he did pick up no one, so I have no idea what he's going to do in terms of quarterback, but I'd imagine it's going to be around 100 points total for his projection. You guys will see it on the screen, hopefully. This is unfortunate for Tony. However, I undermined this team last week, and he came out and shocked the world, scoring 91 points, beating the best team in the league previously. So we're going to take this pretty seriously. Bijan Robinson has a great matchup if he is able to come back and play this week. Tank Bigsby gets a full workload, we project. T. Higgins against Cleveland, I love that matchup. Deebo Samuel against Kansas City. Kansas City's shutting down everybody, so they're scary. I have no idea. Lazard and Chase Brown in the flexes, it's going to be interesting. I think Chase Brown might have a tough week. We just saw what Cleveland did against Saquon. Something to keep an eye on. And as for the Guardians, look, although I would argue worse matchups in some areas, like James Conner against the Chargers and Alvin Kamara against Denver, there are some plays that can help this team win, obviously. I mean, look, the firepower's there. Jay Daniels against Carolina, Jamar Chase against Cleveland, Chris Godwin against Baltimore alone. That's it, right? Like, those are going to be the cornerstones of this week. So I have the Guardians winning. Again, not taking this game lightly because Tony has shown up the past couple weeks. And I think, is that 2 straight wins for Tony? Very impressive. Taking down AJ recently. Hey, you never know with Tony, though. You never know. Let's get on to the final Sunday game. This is going to be a huge, huge game. I think high scoring. But then again, last time I said something was going to be high scoring, it ended up not being that bad. So, Off to Grandma against Bear Down. I think Off to Grandma is going to be fully healthy this week, finally. I think Ramondre comes back. Malik Neighbors should 99% sure be coming back. The only problem that he's going to have is Dallas Goedert, which with the tight ends this year, it doesn't really fucking matter. Just go pick up anyone you want because it's all going to be probably shit anyways, right? However, this team got a lot deeper this week. With Jerry Jeudy becoming the new wide receiver 1 in Cleveland, that adds to the depth of Off to Grandma without him having to make a trade. I've been kind of critical of this roster in the past couple weeks, saying that you can't be complacent, you have to make a move. With the Amari Cooper trade, Jerry Jeudy's value skyrockets, and he kind of just added depth by doing nothing. Luck, good drafting, good outlook, whatever you want to call it, AJ is going to be benefiting from that. And when you look at Bear Down, I don't know why this is, but he has Blake Corum as his RB2. I don't even know why you would entertain that idea, because Blake Corum has had 3, he's done nothing. And if you start him this week, that's just the dumbest thing I've ever seen. I'd much rather start Raheem Mostert. I'm hoping that the reason that he's in that lineup spot is just because he dropped Roschon Johnson for him. Just scary. I don't even know why you'd entertain putting him in that spot. Nonetheless, your RB2, which Jonathan Taylor could possibly be coming back this week, which would be huge. The team is pretty healthy. So the projections are going to be quite similar. Still, Off to Grandma's going to have a slight edge. And I'm going to take AJ this week. I've been having this risky kind of method of picking games this year. I'm just going back to basics. AJ's got a better team, he's going to win. Mez has got a better team, he's going to win. Austin's got a better team, he's going to win. Colin, comparable team to Jay Gill for sure. This is the first trade since the the first game between the two since the Saquon trade, so this will be interesting there as well. But Colin, I think, has the better team, he's going to win. And of course, Jackson has the better team, I think he's going to win. So we're going into prime time this week. Guys, I mentioned, it's not a great week in terms of storylines. It's not a great week in terms of rivalries. It's not a great, whatever. But this week, we do have a primetime game, and it's the Dogs against Killer Offseason. Now, before I get into my analysis, I'm going to let a video play from the Dogs manager. Had a tough couple weeks so far this season. He's looking to turn it around. Take a look at that.
Hello, League. I'm back for another primetime matchup. Kind of like one of these trash Thursday night games. Huh? Nonetheless, here we are, sitting at 2-4. What are we going to do about it? We're going to fucking win. We're fucking winning out. I'm losing my mind over here. Okay? But guess what? Guess what, baby? New life. New life for Amari Cooper, baby. Amari fucking Cooper. All year, people been trying to get me to trade his ass. And I just haven't done. I said I'm riding this hell train out. And guess what? This hell train has been sent up to the heavens above. Josh Allen is now going to answer the prayers. Here we go, boys. Judson, look the fuck out because them dogs, we're fucking coming and we're amped up, baby. And I'm about to hop on Xbox with Judson and I'm going to tell him the same fucking thing. Them dogs. Them dogs. Them dogs. We're coming, baby. We're coming.
Well, thank you so much, Tyler, for sending in that video. We always love hearing from you. As we did last week with the Chris and Brock thing, I think you guys actually really liked me going in depth on the matchup history for the two franchises. So you know what? I thought let's do it again. Well, I didn't think about it. You guys requested it. So we're going to keep doing that. You guys, if you want something, just let me know and we'll do it. So here's my, I guess, first attempt or second attempt at it. So let's go back all the way, guys, to 2021. Week 6 was the first time these two guys met, and it was the Dogs of DOGGS taking on Jax's Poop back in the day. And the Dogs, this was in the midst of his revolutionary, record-setting, high-flying, Air Coryell, West Coast offense, spread gun, whatever, offense this year, 166.6 to 122.66 was this matchup. Very high scoring, actually. And, of course, the Dogs took it back. Maybe the Dogs need to be renamed to this version. Who knows? This was their first matchup. So right now, at this point, recorded history, Tyler's up 1-0 all time against Judson. After that matchup in 2021, the league expanded, if you guys remember, and we actually don't see another matchup between the two franchises until 2022 in Week 7. And guys, this is a very close game. If you guys remember, this is actually one of the closest games ever. And that was, at the time, Juju's TikTok page beating Mixin' the Pot. And nonetheless, 116.72 to 115.84, a 0.9 differential. Very, very close game. I don't remember what was the leading or winning play or anything like that, but it is kind of cool going back and seeing all these young players evening up the series at 1 game apiece. So then you go to later in the season, Week 13 of 2022. These two franchises meet again. He got killed this game. I'm seeing a 0 out of Joe Mixon at this point. So I definitely don't think renaming your team to this was the move. But Juju's TikTok page, Judson beating Tyler, 127 to 79. A big blowout, very impactful victory for Judson. And that put him up 2-1 all time. Both managers actually ended up making the playoffs that year, and unfortunately both losing in the first and second round. But it's one of those, out-of-conference matchups that really go either way. You go now to 2023, and it's Week 7. Judson, at the time, Fire Arthur Smith, took down the GOAT Squad. I know I always kind of refer to Tyler's team as the GOAT Squad, 153 to 112.68. Listen, I don't know what it is, but I think Tyler needs to go back to the DOGGS, because that team was great, and maybe it's something to do with that, I don't know. Judson going up 3-1 all time. So we then go into, with the way our schedule is working now, into Week 13. And in Week 13, these managers met again, where the GOAT Squad actually bested Fire Arthur Smith 124.86 to 79.58. So that brings the all-time matchup to 3-2. However, although there is no playoff history between these two franchises, again, it's been pretty good games whenever they do face off. So that brings us to this year. And who do I think is going to win this year? Well, let's break it down as we do with every game, and this is obviously a huge game for both teams because going down 2-5, I don't want to say is eliminates you from the playoffs, but having to finish off the year 5-2 is much harder to do when you really put it into practice. So Judson coming off the CeeDee Lamb trade, getting 2 starters this week in Brandon Ayuk and Jalen Waddle. Will they provide help? I think so, because when you look at his bench, he doesn't really have anyone else, especially with bye weeks. And as for Tyler, Josh Allen, Amari Cooper stack, that's awesome. But Justin Jefferson and Travis Kelce and Terry McLaurin, I mean, he has some great players with great matchups this week. And that's a big thing, because when you look at Judson, he doesn't really have that great of matchups. I don't know how Kansas City is going to defend against San Francisco. That's probably going to be the deciding factor. Also, Jalen Waddle against Indianapolis is good. However, Rashid Shaheed probably out. Kyler Murray has a tough matchup. I don't know. Is Cooper Kupp coming back? That's a big thing. If Cooper Kupp comes back, that changes the whole dynamic for Judson. But it's basically a must-win for both squads. The Dogs have gotten really unlucky in terms of other teams just kind of scoring way more points, just going off against them. I've been complaining about that happening to me, and it's honestly happening way more to Tyler. I don't know the exact stats, but I think he's at least top 3 in points against, or points allowed. Who do I have winning this primetime game? I have Tyler winning this primetime game. It's the second time he's in primetime this year. And second time, Judson's been in prime time, so everyone else has been in twice. I kind of wanted to do that for this first kind of half of the season. So there is my picks. I have Jackson, Colin, Austin, Mez, AJ, and then for prime time, I have Tyler. I think there's going to be some under the radar great games this week, but nothing too detrimental besides, in my opinion, the prime time game. Let's move on to the Boomer Bust picks. Last week, I went 0-1 in the Booms because Ramondre didn't play, and I went 1-0 in the Bus because James Cook did not play. So we're going to keep it going. The Booms, I have 2 Booms this week. I have Saquon for Colin's team going over 20.9 points. He's playing the Giants. The Giants could have the best run defense in the league, and Saquon would still probably score 35 points. Just being 100% honest with you. And my other boom is maybe an underrated play here. I have Juju Smith-Schuster for the Guardians against the 49ers. I loved his usage against the Saints in the Rashee Rice role. I think he's going to excel, and PPR value alone, at only 14 points for his boom break, I think that's really low. I think he's going to soar over that, potentially getting 15-20 points this week. As for my bus, I have George Pickens for Thank You Tomorrow going under 6.1 points. He's playing against the New York Jets and potentially a new quarterback in Russell Wilson stepping in. I don't like that week 1 on top of George Pickens already having a lot of concerns in that Steelers offense. He's probably going to have a bad game. And I hate to be this guy. I'm sorry to pick on Dom. But also I have Derrick Henry. I didn't really know where else to kind of go with this, but Derrick Henry under 9.3 points. I know, crazy idea, but he's going up against the Tampa Bay defense. They have a good defensive line with Vita Vea kind of plugging up the A and B gap if they choose to. That's where Derrick Henry's been running a lot of his runs. Maybe it gets stopped this week. So on top of that, a negative game script for Baltimore. Tampa Bay is going to really put up a lot of points, as we have seen. You got to take some risk. I'm going to take a risk on Derrick Henry going under 9.3 points. So those are my boom or bust picks. And before we move on to the final segment, I'm just going to give the midseason award nominees. I'm not going to tell you the actual nominees. I just want to get the awards, what I'll be picking for next week's video. So tune in next week for the winners of these awards. And some might be added in the week coming up to that, like kind of Royal Rumble-esque. You just never know what other awards are going to be added unless you go and watch the video. So right now, though, as we did last year, I have best team overall, worst team overall, best trade for a team, worst trade for a team. That's 2 completely different ones, trust me. Most injured team thus far, biggest steal or steals in the draft might go by position, might go by one play at all, or one player, you never know. Worst pick in the draft, again, same concept there. Worst player or worst player per position. We'll see. I have best waiver wire ad. I have highest scoring game. I have lowest scoring game. And I have other superlatives to be added, as I mentioned. So be sure to tune in next week for the winners of those awards. I'm not going to have them voted on. I'm just going to pick them to the best of what I think is right. And then these will obviously come back into play at the end of the year awards. So hope you guys enjoyed that. And now let's move into the power rankings portion of the episode. Alright, moving on to power rankings. Like I said at the beginning of this video, a lot of shakeup, and I think it's warranted. We'll see what everyone agrees with, or disagrees with, I should say. And we're going to get right into it. Killer offseason. I don't want to put you here just because of the trade that you made. I think it's a long-term outlook better for this team. It won't be last now. However, when you don't score over 70 points 3 of the last 4 weeks, I have to put you down here, right? I can't. In no good moral conscience can I put you anything above 12. Until you score high again, I think your outlook is good. I think everything is better. But just to be fair, I cannot put you any higher. With that said, number 11 is We Are Shit. Mr. Marmani, Team Marmani, Marmanti's team, however you want to say it, is here at number 11 just because, although great win last week, it was kind of a lucky win. I don't know if I can say that. Of course, you can take wins wherever you can get them, but kind of a lucky win considering AJ, for some reason, had 67 points scored. That's probably not going to happen again the rest of the season. So, congrats for Team Armani for taking advantage, but I don't think it, in terms of his outlook, it's there. I still think this is a last place contending team, and that's no shade to Tony. He just got really unlucky, and I think he just made a bad trade for CMC early on. I know he wishes he could have it back, but you never know. Sometimes you get a bone thrown. And maybe you just get boned by Tone. Maybe Tone bones. Who knows? Next up, at number 10, I have Thank You DeMar. Love the trade for Joe Burrow. I think that's going to pay dividends. Evan Ingram came back. That's why I'm moving Dom up a couple spots. There are still big concerns with Jordan Mason losing his job in about 3 weeks. George Pickens isn't good enough. Wan'Dale Robinson is good, but he's a flex player, and I don't think you have any other flex players, right? So there's a lot of problems, some cornerstone pieces. Do you make a trade, or do you just kind of ride this out and kind of float around to 6 wins, which I think is doable? I think 6 and 8 is doable with this roster, with the 4 cornerstones of his team. Realistically, it's probably more 4 to 5. I don't know. It's up to Dom. So, we'll see what happens. At number 9, I have Team DD. Listen, I think I can move Team DD and Thank You DeMar around. Either way, it's not really going to make a difference. They're both contending for the Toilet Bowl. They're both going to be at a cap 6 wins. Like, cap 6 wins. They're already 2 and 4. I'm going to say you can switch either of these out, but just for Team DD's sake, in terms of outlook, you have Nico Collins coming back soon. You have Isaiah Pacheco coming back at the end of the season. Chuba Hubbard's still playing out of his mind for you. James Cook, great. Jalen Hurts, great. The only problems I have right now, Brock Bowers is great. The only problems I have is just the flexes. Who do you put there? Can you maybe package a couple for one solid guy? We'll see what happens. At number 8, I have Chris's team, Direction Pad, and he's not moving since last week. I think number 8 is still a really good spot for because CMC, we know he's going to be good when he comes back. It's just a matter of when. Tyreek Hill, we know he's going to be good whenever Tua comes back. It's just a matter of when. The problem with this team has been the running back too. I don't understand how we have gone this many weeks without him making a move to get a new running back too. I don't know in what universe starting a second and third string running back is the answer for your running back too. Yeah, you got lucky with a backup being thrust into a starter role, and look, it still sucked for you. You had all these receivers, and you didn't make a move. You just traded for Nick Chubb. I think it could end up working out. But again, this team has to get to 7 wins, and I just don't think in the last 7 weeks this team can go 5 and 3, 6 and 2, or whatever it is. I don't think it's possible. So that's why I have them here. At number 7, I have the Dogs. The Dogs. Because they're fucking barking with that Amari Cooper to the Buffalo Bills trade. Josh Allen is going to save Tyler's season one way or another. He already did for one of his wins against the Guardians. I remember that on Monday night, and he's going to do it again now with Amari Cooper's fantasy season. Amari Cooper was taping out to be one of the worst picks in the draft this year, and it's going to be a complete 180 now. Maybe takes a week to get acclimated, but Amari Cooper has a skill set that Josh Allen needs. Considering Amari Cooper is already leading the league in targets, now you get good targets out of Josh Allen, and that means the most. That's all Tyler could ask for. Congrats on that. Team looks good. 2-4, definitely the best 2-4 team by a long shot. I think the outlook is great. Maybe another move needs to be made in the future. We will see. But now I think it's going to really work out. Terry McLaurin's great. At number 6, Brace's backpack. Garrett Wilson looks like a great trade. However, Davante Adams is on to New York. What will that do for Garrett Wilson? Will it be a Jamar Chase, T. Higgins situation where they mutually benefit from both being on the field? It's unlike anything I've seen, considering targets go to the other guy, but it could happen. With Rodgers, I haven't really seen it happen with 2 receivers. It's usually only been one guy. You know, a Greg Jennings, a Jordy Nelson, a Davante Adams. Just it kind of only works with one clear-cut one. Also, T.J. Hockenson comes back. I think the backpack squad needs to make a trade. I don't know for what. I don't know who. I think he needs to make a trade. At number 5, the 08 Lions. Dropping again, and it's no hate. You're still top 5 team because, look, you're solid. Like, your roster is so solid. The only problem I'm having is the last 2 weeks. 2 weeks ago, whenever you made the trade, yes, you expected to lose. You bumped down a little bit just because, hey, you got to do that in terms of record. This week, everyone's there, everyone's healthy, no buys, and you underperform. Is it your fault? No. You know, you could have started Downs over Kirk, however you didn't. What can DK and Jaden Reed really do? Where is the ceiling there? Now what we're seeing with Garrett Wilson, where is that ceiling? I love Saquon Barkley. You need him to be coming out for your team 100% every single time, because whenever he does, if he gets injured, that's going to be a big blow for your roster. So you need him to give you as many wins as you can. And this week, it just did not happen. At number 4, I have Bear Down. Brock's squad, Brock's team, the Little Giants from last year. I don't know what to think about this team. I have to put them up here because they're 4-2. You know, they grind out wins. They're a gritty team. Respect. Just respect. Injuries, mismanagement, the boys still come out to play, and, you know, whenever you have easy wins, kind of like you did this week with Chris, if you don't score over 100, then you should not win most weeks. Brock took advantage of a weak Chris team, but here's the problem, though. He still kept it close. That's the only problem that I'm having. I can't ever put it higher right now. I honestly I'd probably rather put a Collins team over this. It's interchangeable for me right now, just 4-5. I think next week Collins team moves right back up. Very possible in my opinion. But I think the top records are top records for a reason. As for Brock, look, the CMC trade was great for you. I think there still needs to be another trade, you know? You can't just be sitting here being complacent. Chris Olave, although injured, has not been performing anyways. You know, you don't have a running back 2. Even if Jonathan Brooks comes back, he's not your RB2, I promise you. It's like a Braylon Allen and Breece Hall situation. The backup in Brooks looks great. Or maybe you don't like Chuba, whatever. Regardless, the snap share is going to be significant. And you cannot win very many games in fantasy football betting on who's this going to be. And you already have that situation with Zach Moss and Chase Brown. So now you want 2 of those on your team? I don't understand the thinking there. You want to put in Mostert? It's the same deal. So you have Taylor, who I do love. You know I love Jonathan Taylor, but who is your RB2? In my opinion, you shouldn't trade Olave or Dell or Smith for a running back 2. You don't realize it, but those points are important. Enough about that. Moving on to off to grandma at number 3. A big drop here. 2 straight losses. The team is underperforming in last week especially, almost getting the lowest score ever. The team's just having depth concerns. Now, of course, Jerry Jeudy's going to be the number 1 option in Cleveland, so the rich get richer for AJ. I'm happy for him. That's great. he had the knowledge to have Judy on his squad and stash him. It's very smart. The concern I have is running back. If Kyron were to go down, you have nobody else. If Ramondre just sucks, which he kind of, although injured, he's still on a shitty offense and a shitty O-line. Maybe Ramondre's ceiling is capped. What do you do to replace him? Especially if there is injury and he has his bye week in the future, right? So what do you do there? There's a lot of questions. You have 38 million receivers. Your tight end just got hurt. I love A.J. Brown and Malik Neighbors, but the team really isn't as deep as originally thought when you were 4-0. At number 2, we have the Guardians of Your Mom's House welcoming CeeDee Lamb back in with open arms. So happy about that. Now, without a doubt, the best wide receiver group in the whole league. Jamar Chase, Chris Godwin, and CeeDee Lamb. And we're going to ride that out, baby. We're just going to ride that shit all fucking year because that's all I got. Right? Kamara, James Conner, Tony Pollard, Jaden Daniels. Tight end is a huge problem. Tight end, I don't know what to do. But if Cole Kmet can just get me 8 points every week, I'm fucking ecstatic. So we're going to hopefully go streaking now. CeeDee Lamb, welcome fucking home, baby. Also, most points scored in the league. So it's not me just hyping up my own team. This team performs. Hasn't scored under 100 points. At number 1... I believe this is the first time this year Mr. Jordan Meskowski, Mez, can't chub check, moving all the way up to number 1. He was steady climbing every single week this year. I think his team overtakes all of ours right now. And I mean, he's playing fantastic as well. And he hasn't had a wide receiver too, but he's playing great waiver wire additions. You have to respect that in terms of just being a manager, because it's not just getting lucky with players. It is being smart and picking up the right guys to start when you face injuries, when you face bye weeks. Mez has done it. Michael Wilson scored a touchdown this week. Great play on his part. Okay, and he could have played more people like Dobbs and stuff. But it's just great managing. Obviously, the best running back room in the league. I mean, there's no argument there. David Montgomery, Joe Mixon, and Kenneth Walker. That's the best running back room in the whole league. That is insane. And on top of that, Lamar's QB1. Amon-Ra St. Brown, although having a weird start, he's still Amon-Ra St. Brown. He's still good for 100 catches in a season, right? Love the tight end and Jake Ferguson. I was completely wrong about him. Love him. So all you got to do is just get Devontae Adams back and then just throw some random motherfucker in there at flex 2 and you're good. Everyone's team is going to face adversity eventually. So what does Mez do when that time comes? Right now, though, just ride this shit out because it is a great roster. Very impressed. So, guys, that is the power rankings. I hope you all enjoyed. Kind of dove into it a little deeper this week. And stick around for the mid-season award. And will be announced. The winners will be announced on next week's forum.